Okay, so the next challenge is to mount the Tach, and I've already kind of determined in the car that it's probably going to have to mount to the roll bar beside the windshield pillar post, but we're going to go in the car and verify that in a minute. But I just wanted to show you kind of what we're up against here. So this rubber gasket goes in this stamped metal bracket, which frankly for the cost of this Tach is kind of cheesy, but is what it is. And then this clamps to the outside of this. So anyway, this is squeezes onto the body of the Tach, and then excuse me, these bolts, and they've got this threaded barrel, and so the idea is threaded barrel goes in here, and the bracket goes on there, the bolt goes through it, squeezes it together, secures the Tach. Right, pretty dead simple the way it works, right? So just kind of like that. So that's all well and good, except for the fact that my roll bar is not 90 degrees parallel to this bracket. So you see how the bracket has a curve in it to kind of fit up against a round surface. Like, for example, here's a can of like so, right? So the bracket is designed to fit up against a round surface, not maybe as big as this can, but 1 5/8 roll cage. So this groove or curved surface is perpendicular to the mounting holes for the Tach. So what that means is if I mount this, level in the car, then the Tach is going to point straight forward and everything's good. My problem is my roll cage bar is on a 32-degree angle. So that would have my Tach pointing up at the ceiling. So that's not going to work. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to manufacture a new bracket that has a curve in it that follows the 32-degree angle of the roll bar, but has perpendicular mounting points like that for the Tach to mount. So this will be mounted in the car on an angle, but the Tach will be facing straight like that instead of on the same angle as the bracket. I hope that's, you can understand. So I'm going to just go in the car real quick, have a look and see where things need to go, and I'll kind of show you what we're up against over there. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the bracket the way it would normally work from the folks at Autometer, and you can see if I make the bracket follow the angle of the roll bar like that, well, the Tach points up at the ceiling. The Tach needs to face me like that, not like that. So what I have to do is build a bracket that fits the roll bar on its angle, but mounts the Tach 32 degrees different. So that's the challenge. So you can kind of see, like, and this is probably going to be like somewhere in here, but it's the same problem. It can't go in the dash like that. It obviously has to face me. So we're going to figure that out. Okay, so to find the angle, I use my handy dandy little angle finder, and this says 31. So I set my angle finder here at about roughly 30 degrees. So what I want to do is find 0 degrees from that angle, so this is a little bit tough to hold, but so I'll put this on here, and yeah, so that's 0 degrees. Okay, so we know this is the right angle to make the tack face me. So now we can kind of lay this out on the bench on a piece of aluminum and kind of figure out what we're going to do. So let's go over there. So I've got this chunk of aluminum, and what I basically want to do is I want to make a bracket that's going to have this mounting tab 30 degrees roughly from the line that goes on the roll bar from that angle. So I got to lay that out, and then I got to figure out, I think this is going to be thick enough. I think I can get this bracket to work with that thickness, so that'll be nice. So I got to just figure out how I'm going to lay this out, and I'll have to put a groove in this somehow this way on the mill, and then once that groove is in place, and I think what I'll do, just to make it easier to mill, is I'll put the groove in it this way, and then I'll cut the edges of this bracket on an angle to make it fit. So I think that's going to be the plan, but anyway, I'll lay it out, and we'll come back and see how I do. So this should fit the tubing fairly well. So now that we've got the groove that we need in the bracket, now I need to cut the bracket on an angle and then mill the slots, or the bolt pattern for the tack mount. All right, we got one side milled. These are going to be the faces that the bracket actually bolts to. So I'm going to just move you a little bit. I'm going to turn that thing over, and we'll do the same process to the opposite side. I'm just going to blow these. Well, let's just get these strips out of here. Okay, so that side's done. So now we're going to go with this side. Tap, tap. So I don't want to take off a ton on this side. I just want to kind of clean it up, so we'll kind of see where we're at here. Bring the knee up and just touch it. Like that. And maybe go another 5 thou. And we'll see if that cleans it up. Nope, not really. Okay, I'm just going to do that again. And we'll take another 10 thou maybe. See if that's it. Not quite. Almost. And frankly, you know, that's actually good enough, but I want to see how the bracket's going to fit before I go any further, so I'm going to take it out of the vise, and I'm going to test the fit, the width of it for the bracket, and we'll kind of see where we need to go from there. Okay, so I've got the part mounted in the vise in roughly the orientation it's going to go in the car, and you know, the bracket is going to go on it like this. So I basically have to drill a hole. I'm probably just going to drill a hole all the way through it. There's no need to not go all the way through. And then I'm going to thread it, and I'll just put the bolts in it, and you know, Bob's your uncle. But so to get the hole in the right place, I'm going to use a transfer punch. And you probably saw in my other videos, there's a problem if you try to use a transfer punch when the reference surface you're putting it through is tapered, because you see it doesn't hold the punch properly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set this up on top like this, and I'm going to put the transfer punch through like that, and get my, sorry if my hand is in the way there. I'm going to do it that way and kind of get my reference that way. I want to make sure that this is pretty much 90 degrees with the bracket, and it is. And I think I want to go like right about there. And so we just tap. And we should have a witness mark. Yep, right there. So that little point right there is where we're going to put the hole through. So now it's back to the mill, and we'll drill that through, and then we go to threading. So lots of fun. Custom brackets for, I mean, you know, everything's custom, right? It just seems the way things go when you're building a car from scratch. So, something I just wanted to point out, there are special drills that you can use when you're drilling a long way. Let's try that again. So, something I wanted to point out, there are special drills, this isn't one of them, that you can use when you're drilling a really deep hole in something. They're called double margin drills. And they basically provide better clearance through the hole and keep the drill from binding and stuff. And typically, if the hole is more than 3 or 4 inches deep, that's when I would go to a double margin drill. But I'm going to use 1/4-20 screws in this, and this is a number 7 drill, which is what you use for 1/4-20. So this is what I've got, so this is what I'm going to use. This drill will go through it. It's just barely long enough, as you can see, but it'll work, and it's just aluminum, so it's not a big deal. But I just wanted to point that out. There are special drills for using, for use in really deep holes. Double margin drills, they're called. Oh, I want to show you something else cool too. See if we can get this in the frame here. So this is the bracket that comes with the autometer Tach, and these are the bolts that normally get used, and you know, that's fine. It's just a regular 1/4-20 bolt with a lock washer. But I looked at these countersunk holes, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I had a nice flat head screw that would go in there instead. So since we're making things custom, we're just going to make it a little bit more custom, and we're going to put these flatheads in there. So they're still 1/4 everything else is the same, but I just figured I'd show you that just because, hey, custom is custom. Oh, here's a couple more what my son refers to as old guy tricks. You can see, I think, right there, the little, maybe you can't in the camera. Let me move you a little bit closer here. Let's see if I can take this off the stand without dropping it on the floor. So you can kind of see where my mark is right there. And on this piece it's pretty evident, but sometimes it's not. And so what my boy calls an old guy trick, if I can get the glare out of this, I'm going to show you. I just take a Sharpie and put some ink down in the indentation and then wipe it with a rag, and it leaves a little dark spot, if that would focus. It leaves a little dark spot right in the middle of where I want to align it. Now, you know, because that point is not in the center of this piece, I can't take an edge finder and find the center and drill the hole. I want it offset to the center. So another, what the boy would call an old guy trick, and doing this with one hand, is I use a tungsten out of my TIG welder. They're straight and you know they're already ground to a point, and I just put it in my drill chuck and kind of find where it needs to go. And I'm just going to move it down a little closer, and I'll lock that in place, and then we just kind of move this around and kind of get where we need to be. And this will get you, I mean, within a few thousandths, you know, of exactly where you need to be. And again, I'm not sure that that's focusing very well, but I think we're almost right there. I've got to move back just a little bit, like about there, and I think we're lined up. So, and again, you know, this placement of this hole is not super critical. It certainly doesn't have to be within a few thousandths. It could probably be within, you know, 3/30 seconds, and it would be just fine. So we're definitely close enough. So anyway, I'm just showing you how a quick and easy way on a non-critical dimension you can use a tungsten to line that up. Okay, well, time to tap some holes, and got my trusty old Starrett 91B tap handle and 1/4 tap, and I like to use this anchor lube. Works really good, especially in aluminum, but works good for a bunch of stuff, and I enjoy it. It works well. And then I always use a tap guide on stuff like this, just to help you get the hole really straight, and you don't have to, you know, worry that you're trying to thread something crooked or whatever. So we'll just turn that in a few turns, back it out, break the cut thread, again a few turns, back it out, and we just keep doing that. And with the anchor lube, it's pretty easy. Let's going in, like, I could do this with a drill really, but I like hand tapping things. I like the feel of the mechanics of it and stuff, so it's all good in the hood. And I just need to go in about really 5/8 of an inch, but I'll go in probably about an inch or maybe a little bit more. And the screws that I'm going to use, I think, are either 5/8 or 3/4 inch long, and then there's the thickness of the bracket that gets subtracted off of that. So these holes will be plenty deep enough. That's definitely not an issue. I'll just kind of go in. You know what, that's probably pretty good just right there. Yeah, well, the tap comes out like that. Squirt some WD-40 on it and hit it with the air hose, and it'll come nice and clean. And ready for next time. Same thing with the hole in the part. We'll clean that up. Squirt some schmoo in there. Give it a bit of an air dry. Try not to squirt the camera. And let's try our Firstner here. Yeah, nice fit. Really nice fit. That's good. And it goes in, yeah, plenty far enough. Goes in the full depth of the screw. So I think we're going to be good there. So now it's just a matter of cosmetically cleaning this piece up. And I've got to drill a couple of holes in here that are going to be countersunk. I'll probably use like a countersunk Allen head bolt to mount this to the roll cage. And on that roll cage material, it's 1 5/8 DOM, and I can't remember the thickness. I think it's 120 wall. It's got plenty of room for threads, so I'm just going to drill 2 holes in here, drill matching holes in the roll cage wherever I figure out where this is going to go, and I'll tap the roll cage, and then put the screws in it, and you know, the Tach will be able to be mounted. So easy when you say it fast. Well, if they say you don't like the way things are, just wait a minute, and that's what's happening this morning. I showed you yesterday making the aluminum bracket that was going to mount the Tach to the roll bar, and I had it basically done. I just needed to drill a couple of holes in it, finish it off cosmetically, and so I thought before I do that, I'm just going to mock fit everything in the car. So I come over to the car this morning and I use a piece of cardboard to mock up the windshield, and as it turns out, the Tach was not going to go where I wanted it to go because the back of it would hit the windshield, or the front of it was way too close to the steering wheel. I started thinking about all the other things that might get in the way, and the new dash pad, which is right here. The new dash pad is one of the things that might get in the way. So as you can see, the Tach mounting has been postponed, and we're now on to removing the dash from the car again. And I'm going to install the dash pad, but I have to cut it because, I'll see if I can swing the camera around here and show you, there are these cutouts here for the roll cage. So the roll bar goes down through here, and obviously the dash pad's in the way. So I'm going to have to cut the dash pad out to make the roll cage fit. And then once I get the dash pad on and figure that out, I'll put the dash back in the car for what I hope is going to be the last time, but no guarantees. And yeah, so, you know, plans change. This is part of building a car. Like, you think you've got a plan, and you're happy with it, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I didn't consider this, or I should have thought about that, or this is going to be in the way, and that's happened to me on this car, you know, frankly, that's happened to me on this car probably at least a dozen times, where I get making something and then I realize, oh, well, hell, that's not going to work. So it is what it is. You know, it's a learning experience. We'll just call it that. Building stuff from scratch, that's the way it works. So today's project is going to be modify the dash pad and get it bolted in place, so that then I can put the dash back in the car with the pad on it, and then figure out where the heck that tack is going to go. So that's the plan. We'll bring you back as things happen. Okay, well, I think I've got one corner cut out. And let me stick you on the tripod here real quick. This was quite a bit easier than I had originally anticipated. So basically what happens is, you know, the dash pad mounts on the dash like that, but then I've got this roll cage bar that has to come up through here like this. So I just needed to clearance the dash pad, and I think that's going to work. So I'm going to do the other one, and it's interesting. This is all just rubber. There's no foam or anything in here. Sorry if you can't see that. There's a metal shell, and then it's just rubber molded over it. So it's fairly easy to cut. I just marked it out and then used the tin snips to cut out the metal underneath. And you know, let me take you a little bit closer here. So I bolted the dash pad on the dash, and I marked where the cutout in the dash was. And so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to cut this layer of rubber out of here. That'll expose the metal underneath. I'm going to take my various tin snips and cut the metal out, and then I'm going to cut the top layer of rubber back to match it. And when I get that done, I'm going to bolt this back on the dash and try and refit it in the car and see how it's going to work. Okay, I'll basically kind of show you what we're doing. First thing to do is just cut out this bottom layer of the rubber covering. And I'll probably put a dab of cycloranolate glue on that just to hold that down, but cross that bridge when we get to it. Pipe looks like it's going to fit pretty good. Plenty of clearance, looks like. So now we're going to mount this back on the dash and try and fit the whole thing back in the car. I'll bring you back. Okay, so back in the car, got the dash pad mounted. That all went okay. It fits pretty good. You can see how it hugs the roll bar. So it fits pretty nice, both sides. Happy with that. What I'm not happy with is I've got this white piece of paper in here to kind of mock up approximately the location of the windshield. It's probably about a 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch too close. Actually, it's sagging a little bit where the glass has some curve to it. But anyway, just for mock-up, it's close enough. And what I've learned is there's no way that I'm going to have room to mount this Tach over here and still be able to, have finger clearance around the steering wheel and stuff like that. And, I don't want it way up here. I don't want it way up there, so that's just goofy. So I'm probably going to have to mount it right to the top of this dash pad at some point. Not exactly sure when I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have to make probably yet another mount for that bracket. Or I might just make something completely different to mount the Tach and see what happens. But anyway, as I said earlier, this is the kind of stuff, the best laid plans, stuff you don't anticipate, stuff you don't think about, stuff that you just never thought was going to be an issue. Turns out, hey, it kind of is. So, yeah. So, I won't be disappointed if the Tach goes here. I might even bring it so that it overhangs the dash a little bit like that, depending on what kind of mount I end up coming up with. I'd like to not have it way up high in my view, and so I'd like to keep it as low as I can. And this is sort of redundant because the Holly dash obviously has a Tach built into it. I just don't like looking down at the dash when I'm going down the track, and I'd like to kind of keep this up here. This also has a shift light that's going to go on it. So I'd like to kind of keep it up here where, it's not really obstructing my forward vision, but it's absolutely in my line of sight, so I don't have to I don't have to strain or turn my head or unfocus from the road ahead to look at it, especially with the shift light. There will be times when the car is shifted by the CO2 bottle, and there will be times when I shift it manually. So when I'm shifting manually, I'll want to use the shift light. And so, it's all part of building stuff. So anyway, that was today's project. Didn't get the Tach mounted, but learned some stuff. Did get the dash pad done, which that's kind of something I hadn't been anticipating having done this soon. So it was kind of nice to have that done. And so now I think the next thing, I'm going to just leave the tack until, I don't want to leave it till I get the windshield in it, because I need to be able to get in here to put holes in this and make a mount. So maybe I will figure out the tack thing next. I've still got to bend the aluminum for this console. That still needs to happen. This poor old template's getting all beat to hell working around here so much. But I need to get that done so that I can get my switch panel and stuff mounted in here, and I can actually physically start running more wires. So that's kind of where we are. Thanks very much for watching. Appreciate you guys. I'd love to hear your comments. If you've got anything that you want to talk about or any questions, leave them down there in the doobly-doo and I'll get back to you. So thanks again. Appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, share, save the whales, all that stuff. Thanks very much.